Meet William, the world's most eligible bachelor. At 21, he's got it all. Looks, money, fame, and impeccable breeding. So perhaps it's no surprise that women from all over the world seem to love him.
He's very hot.
Bellissimo.
Yeah, wouldn't say no.
Yeah, he's sexy.
He's just gorgeous, isn't he?
I think William's adorable.
Adorable.
Prince William is ba-ba-ba-boom.
He's so yummy, isn't he?
È bello.
He's gorgeous. I'd marry him.
We love William.
We love him!
Bello, 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 bello.
William, we love you!
He's got a pretty face. You can totally see Diana in him as opposed to Prince Charles, thank goodness. His ears are all nicely pinned back, so that's fine. Yeah, he's a good-looking guy.
He's got sort of movie star looks and also seems to have quite a lot of humility. I think girls like that sort of shyness.
Girls swoon over William. He has his mother's good looks, he has his fantastic pedigree, and yeah, I think he's up there with any list that's compiled. He's in the top 3.
Which is just as well. Because in the years to come, young William's gonna need all the help he can get.
What young William has to do is to pull things together. He is perhaps the last hope of this family, the last hope of the monarchy, even. So he's got a very, very tough time ahead of him.
I think William is the most important piece to the future of the royal family, and if William doesn't get it together, then I think that they'll be sort of lost in space, really.
William could become a fairly young king. He could be a good king, he could command a lot of love and respect from his people, or he could get it totally wrong. And if he does, there's no one left to hold it together.
But the British monarchy needs more than William. We've got our king. What we need now is a queen.
The right marriage for William, if he married the right girl who was a magical, strong, beautiful wife, I mean, could do fantastic things for the monarchy.
I think it's essential that he marries well. I don't think the royal family could withstand another scandal, another Princess Diana and Camilla Parker Bowles.
But luckily for William and the royal family, there doesn't seem to be any shortage of women willing to pitch in and do their bit to save the throne. From the Spices to Ms. Spears, many a celebrity has been starstruck by the thought of Royal Willie. And it's not just the celebs. From the county set, there have been endless rumours of interest from a whole host of Annabelles and Arabellas, culminating most recently with stories about William and sexy St Andrews student Kate Middleton. But while they've all been linked with our William, working out who he's really with is far harder. Because despite all the rumours when it comes to women, William will never confirm or deny anything.
You can't actually go up to Prince William and say, is this really true? You're still dealing in a little bit of doubt.
My guess is he's either got girlfriends of extraordinary discretion, or he flits from one to the other like a bumblebee on a flower bed, you know, one here, one there, etc., never lingering too long. And if he's a normal young adult male, I imagine that's exactly what he is doing.
He's had girlfriends. We haven't necessarily heard much about them, but I think he takes women seriously. He just doesn't do it in the public eye.
What we do know, though, is that unlike his father Charles, William was raised a very modern prince.
William is much more laid back than his father and certainly his grandfather, and I'm sure is far more down to earth. One hears that Prince Charles, in a certain bedroom with a certain actress, actually told her to call him Sir, even when they were both undressed. Now, William is not going to behave like that. It would be crazy.
Unlike Charles, William was sent to Eton, where friends remember him as a thoroughly decent, down-to-earth sort of chap. Though one who was already a big hit with the ladies.
There was no doubt that even then, Will was a focus of attention for girls. Whenever Will was out on the pitch, there was always hordes of girls on the touchlines waiting for half-time or after the match to, you know, run out or have a giggle or whatever it was. And whenever he got the ball, there was always a whisper, you know, a rustle of sound from the sidelines.
And by the time William finished at school and went to Chile for his year off, he'd lost none of his down-to-earth charm, as two of his female travelling companions remember.
There was a lot of flirting, weren't they? And a lot of... Because he got put in a tent with two girls, and I can remember I wanted him in my tent type of thing.
Yup, in Chile, it seems hunky William was a hit with all the girls. But Claire waited patiently, and by the end of the trip, she got her chance. Not that she'd tell us about it.
And we was all like getting a little bit merry, and we danced and everything. Without going into detail, he can be a little bit of a charmer. And that's all I'm saying.
Dirty dancing in Chile, hordes of girls cheering one on at the rugger. The royal dating games certainly come a long way in the last 50 years. Nowadays, you won't just find William entertaining down at Daddy's rural retreat. When he's not in the country, William often stays at Granny's, the perfect pad for those trips out on the town.
It's extraordinary that Prince William is mixing in the world of pubs and clubs where normal punters go to have a pint with their friends, and it means you could actually see and possibly talk to someone like Prince William. 20 years ago, you'd never, ever hear of a member of the royal family in your local pub.
William is a regular at all the usual Sloaney haunts, but recently he's been branching out in the most unexpected directions. Most famously at London's notorious celebrity night spot, China White, where Harry in particular was a hit with a certain young lady, glamour model Cassie Sumner.
Me and my friends were on an evening out at China White's. As I walked in, I kind of noticed that William and Harry was there. We went up to the bar, got a drink. As we went to leave the VIP, Harry kind of tapped my arm and was like, would you like to come and join me for a drink? So I was like, okay. He had his arm around me and was like, had his hand on my leg a couple of times and was like whispering in my ear and things like that. So yeah, he was very friendly.
But while Cassie and young Harry were busy getting acquainted, William slipped out of the club and home. But that's not to say that the girls don't like William.
If William went to a club and was more like Harry, let his hair down and had a few drinks and, you know, chatted to the girls and the models, there'd be so much more women all over him. He'd be fighting them off.
To test Cassie's claim, we took our William to top Mayfair nightclub Funky Buddha to see just what reaction a young prince could expect from the ladies on the dance floor.
William.
From the second he hit the VIP area, young William was fighting them off. One after another, the women came to try their luck with the man they thought was the real Prince William. Wherever he went, it seemed the ladies just couldn't get enough. And as the night went on, the ladies and the dancing just got dirtier. So there you have it. The test was conclusive. The women were all over our Willie. You'd think it'd be a young man's dream, but when you're the future King of England, it's a nightmare. Where William is concerned, getting a woman is the easy bit. It's getting the right one that's hard. As we saw on our evening out at exclusive London nightclub Funky Buddha, William is a huge hit with women from all walks of life. Unfortunately, when you're in line for the throne, it's not that easy. While the William in our experiment was able to woo at will, in real life, Prince William can never let himself get into too much trouble. Unlike Harry, he has to keep his head down and go home early. As the future king, he just can't be seen to get too carried away.
Well, I was talking to the owner of China White, and he said the girls were just all over them. And William probably just thought this wasn't what he wanted, and Harry thought this was great.
I've often thought, poor William, whenever I've seen pictures of him out with Harry, because Harry seems like he's having so much of a better time. He seems like, you know, the wilder brother. He doesn't seem to care. He's out smoking fags and drinking, and he's the one that is associated with the lap dancers, whereas Prince William is the one that seems to keep his head down and probably go home a little bit earlier and talk to less people and be more careful about what he says. So you do have to feel sorry for him, because he's got a big burden on his shoulders.
Well, if William was photographed with a lap dancer on his knee, which I believe has happened in private, people, and it was published, people would just think, well, do we really want a young man like that? It seems very irresponsible. I mean, I know all the kids would think, isn't he great? But I don't think it would really do his image any good, because he is going to be, God willing, he's going to be the king, and the people that he's out with are going to be his subjects, and he has to maintain some decorum, and he understands that.
The problem for William is that he's such a star that any woman who wants to be famous can benefit just from being seen with him.
With modelling, you have to be seen out with these kinds of people just to raise your profile, because you get more work, obviously, if you're more known. If you meet them and you're seen out with them, the press start knowing who you are, therefore the magazines, you know, like the lads mags, start getting a clue of who you are and start booking you for jobs more and stuff. So we're all kind of competing to, you know, get to the top, as it were, so it helps to mingle with these kinds of people.
There's a lot of girls out there who quite fancy the idea of being famous, and to be famous, you need to be photographed with someone famous. And the ultimate famous person is Prince William. So if people who are perhaps, you know, page 3 girls or any kind of celebrity wannabe catch on to the fact that he starts hanging out in places like China Whites and, you know, celebrity hangouts, then all they need to do, as far as they think, is probably start hanging out there as well. And they're very cunning, a lot of these people. So, you know, I'm sure they can come across as very genuine chatting away to Prince William. They can probably put on a bit of a posh voice and he might be sucked in.
I feel very sorry for William. It must be a complete minefield trying to work out which women are genuine and which ones are on the make, trying to, if you like, get their 30 pieces of silver from their association with him. It must be a girl approaches him. He's not to know that 10 minutes later she's not running to Max Clifford to sell her story about talking to Prince William. A complete minefield. And you can't blame him if he stands there with his drink and doesn't talk to anyone.
But as a royal, William does have one advantage. That long, aristocratic nose isn't just for show. It contains William's secret weapon, the famous Windsor bullshit detector.
William has that built-in antenna that he knows one day he will be king. Therefore, he knows that whoever approaches him, offers him a drink, wants to talk to him, or in the case of girls, wants to snuggle up to him, put her arm around him, he will always be aware that there may be an ulterior motive. There may be another reason why they want to be friendly. And therefore, he will always be careful in whom he allows to do that.
William has got a fantastic radar and he can detect people who just want to use him for their own ends. You know, if he could probably spot from 100 yards those that just want to be next to him simply because he's Prince William. So he's got a good antennae and he knows what to look for.
He's got a good built-in bullshit detector. But the trouble is with that, of course, he might end up rejecting almost everybody. Sooner or later, he's going to have to compromise if he wants to get married at all.
So if William can't trust an ordinary girl, then perhaps he should choose someone who's already rich and already famous. Or a celebrity, as they're more commonly known. And around the world, there'd be no shortage of the highly desirable little lovelies, queuing to tie their cart to the royal horse.
Every celebrity girl and every celebrity manager would want their charge to marry a prince. You know, he's got real class, and lots of these celebrities don't. And I think it's, you know, wow, wonderful to have someone who kind of opens doors for you and doesn't push you around and kind of, you know, doesn't tell you what to do. And then at the same time, you know, you're going to be Queen of England. I mean, you know, couldn't really be more of a dream.
And it's a dream that's particularly popular on the other side of the pond. At one time or another, it seems that almost every American star has expressed a desire for a little British Willie.
There was stories about Britney and Prince William when Britney first, you know, hit the scene. It was rumoured that he quite liked her, and I think I heard that he'd invited her for tea as well, and every time Britney was interviewed, people would say, you know, what's going to happen with you and Prince William? When are you going to get it together? Which would have been amazing, obviously, if Britney started going out with Prince William.
But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. No, it seems that despite her millions, William soon realised that Britney was not much better than those naughty girls down at China White, just seeking a little reflected glory from Britain's most brilliant bachelor. Then, just as Britney was dropping off the royal radar, rumours of interest from another American singer began to filter through. Yes, it seemed that the divine Beyoncé Knowles was interested. And for once, the attraction was said to be mutual.
Beyoncé Knowles, I mean, she's sort of the queen of R&B at the moment, so why not make it, you know, add England and UK or whatever to the end of that title? So Bootylicious, Gold, you know, Beyoncé would be sort of, will rub off and maybe make the royal family sparkle again.
It's a nice thought, but when it comes to Britney and Beyoncé, then the Sun's correspondent, at least, is unconvinced.
Hell would freeze over first before he would marry a Britney or a Beyoncé.
So if Americans like Britney and Beyoncé will never win the key to William's heart, then what about a girl from a little closer to home? Someone who understands what's expected by king and country. The Spice Girls are a definite royal favourite. But of them, the favourite would have to be the sweetest spice of all, baby-faced Emma Bunton, who was famously seen wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with the legend, "Prince William is a fox."
Well, the Spice Girls have had a long history of flirtation with the royal family. I mean, they famously pinched Prince Charles's bum at a concert, and so I think, and he's always very friendly to them. I think that Emma Bunton is adorable, and so therefore, you know, I'm sure she's exactly William's type in terms of, you know, physical, sort of cute, blonde and perky, fresh as a daisy. But I'm not sure that they'd have very much in common at the end of the day.
No, it doesn't really matter where they're from. When it comes to the crunch, celebrities and royalty are not really cut from the same cloth. William's a traditional boy at heart, and a celebrity might be just a little too hot to handle.
If William was to marry a celebrity, then maybe she would try and mould him and get him to have fancy hairstyles, but I just can't really see that happening, because, let's face it, Prince William hasn't got the best fashion sense in the world.
And it's not just William's fashion sense that might put a celebrity off. His hobbies aren't exactly the height of cool either.
I think the activities that William enjoys are probably not necessarily things that these celebrities might be totally thrilled about. I mean, one of the sports that William likes is something called rough shooting, which is literally going to other people's farms and kind of shooting pigeons and rabbits, kind of as you sort of wander around. And that's just, you know, incredibly boring, I think, for a girl.
So if poor William can't trust an ordinary girl and won't get along with a celebrity, then who should he be marrying? It's a big problem. Coping with a royal marriage is hard. And the example set by his mother and father, not to mention his aunt and uncle, is hardly encouraging. Charles wanted to be Camilla's tampon. Diana took James Hewitt's offer of riding lessons a little too literally, while Auntie Sarah was only too happy to hand out the toe jobs. It's an awful legacy to live with. And you can bet that William will be very careful not to make the same mistakes himself when it comes to choosing a wife.
He's going to make two decisions, really. One of them, can I live with this woman? But however much I may want to live with her, is she going to be good at the job? Because she's doing two things. He's taking on a wife and a business partner. And that's a bloody difficult thing to do. It's like two emergency doctors, and we know what happens with doctors. They burn themselves out and they go slightly crazy. But he's got to do it. He's got to think in these two terms. One of them is what my heart wants, and the other is what my head tells me. He's got to decide that the two things don't conflict too much. It's very tricky.
It's a very tough call, and probably the sad fact is William won't really know if he's picked the right person until he's married her and he's settled into married life and they settle into their normal life. No, there's no dress rehearsal. You know, William, even though he's a very modern prince, it's very unlikely that he will live with his future bride before getting married, like a lot of couples do. For him, he has to take the plunge and just hope that he's made the right choice.
It's a lonely life, and William will need someone to help him cope with the road ahead.
You do need the support of a woman or a man at your side. For the Queen, she's got Prince Philip. And whatever people may think about him, he's incredibly supportive of her and the monarchy. And William would need someone. Very much so. It'd be incredibly lonely. You know, every night, you know, getting dressed up, going out on your own, no one to laugh with afterwards, you know, no one to see the funny side of it. No, absolutely essential.
So poor William's got his work cut out. He's got to find a posh girl who likes the outdoor life and will look the part in a crown. But even assuming such a woman existed, how would William go about beginning to woo her? The royal dating game is fraught with complications, things that commoners like you and me thankfully never have to think about. But even if William overcame all these difficulties and found his perfect woman, would she even want the job? Because as we'll see, the life of a royal wife might look like a dream, but there are some serious pitfalls that can make the job an absolute nightmare. Life for William is a life under the spotlight. Wherever he goes, he will always be the center of attention. And as the center of attention, wherever he goes, you can guarantee that there will be a journalist or photographer present.
Most celebrities have chosen to be a celebrity, so although they moan about being in the public eye, they ultimately have said, you know, at the end of the day, I did ask for this lifestyle, so I've surrounded myself with minders, I'm drawing attention to myself, but this is what I've chosen to do. Yet Prince William, he didn't choose to do that. He was born into it, and it's going to be with him for the rest of his life.
I think the job of being a royal is perhaps the least attractive on earth, because if you're born into the family, it's involuntary. Celebs, actors, pop stars, they may not like it once they get there, but they have striven for it. And if they don't like it, of course, they can easily fade away into obscurity, bank the proceeds and just go and live somewhere else and just not do any more shows. With royalty, that isn't the case.
And when it comes to dating women, William's fame makes it even more of a nightmare.
It's pretty impossible for William to lead a normal courtship with a girl. Say, for example, he wanted to go skiing, take a girlfriend away to a ski resort. He would turn up there. He might get it one day, perhaps even 2 days before he's recognised, and someone will recognise him. A telephone call will be made to a paparazzi photographer will turn up, and then he will be followed for that entire day. So it's very, very difficult. He cannot lead a normal life, and I think if he any pretense that he thinks he can, then he's mistaken. He will be followed, good or bad, wherever he goes.
But while living with the media might be hard, William will be very aware that they are an integral part of being in the royal family.
Prince William needs the media, as do all royal figures, because there is only one thing more appalling than being hounded by the media, and that's to have them not interested in you at all. The day that happens, the royal family's finished. They are, in a sense, only of interest to the world because of the media.
But just because the royals need the media, it doesn't mean they like them.
One thing that William doesn't have going for him as a future king is the fact that he really, really dislikes the media, especially now, at this moment, because they've really been, you know, dragging Diana up all the time. And I think he can't be an apologist for his mother forever, but he feels he has to protect his mother's memory. And why should butlers and people go around telling the world what his mother was like? I mean, you can see how upsetting it would be, can't you?
I think the royal family regard us as the enemy because we reveal things that they don't want us to reveal. They want us to be there when they want us to be there, but there are times when we want to be there and they don't. And so you have this, you know, this head-on clash.
The problem for the royal family is that the press will now tell the truth, warts and all.
There was a very famous occasion when we were standing outside Sandringham one New Year's morning. Snow on the ground. You can picture the scene. 8 in the morning, freezing cold. The Duke of Edinburgh walks out and in that ginger overcoat of his, and we call out, "Happy New Year, sir," and he replies, "Bollocks." And of course, in those days, we filed stories saying the Duke gave a cheery wave as he strode off towards the Queen's stables because you couldn't tell the truth then, that he was a rude horrible man, and still is. But today, they will tell you that.
Following the death of his mother, the press have treated William very carefully. But it's a relationship that will need constant attention, because William simply cannot afford to have the media against him. It's a knife edge every major royal has to walk. But for a time, rumors indicated that the attention had got so bad that William decided he didn't want to be king at all. But even though he now appears to have accepted his destiny, royal watchers think that they can still detect some definite signs that the pressure is getting to the young prince.
I think you can tell that Prince William has been through an incredibly hard time, because if you look at the way that, you know, the weight of the world is on his shoulders, his sort of slight sort of, you know, cocking of the head, but also I think his features have started hardening. I mean, he looks sort of very long in the face, strangely, whereas, and I think he's probably getting less good-looking.
There are two things that strike me in photographs I see of Prince William. He's stooping slightly, and he's a very tall boy, much taller than his father, who's about 5'10", I think. So he's 6'1", 6'2", maybe. And the other is a slightly haunted look about him. Obviously, the shadows are closing in, because things can only get worse, in the sense that he's now left school, he's got not much more of university, and then it's open season. It's open season on the Prince William front.
For ages, William has been protected by an agreement with the British press. In return for letting William get on with his studies, the palace have agreed to a number of official photo calls with the young prince. The agreement is the reason that so few details of William's love life have emerged. But when it comes to the papers, William is one of the biggest sellers in the world, and editors and photographers are no longer satisfied with shots of William alone. To escape this attention, William chose St Andrews University, a place about as far away from London's prying press pack as a young prince can get. What he didn't count on, though, was Scottish snapper Peter Kelly, who lives, you guessed it, in St Andrews.
When I pick up a camera, that's how I am. I don't see that I'm going to be sympathetic towards this person or that person because of their background. But Prince William isn't a child. He's a public figure. He's a person who's famous for being famous. Therefore, he's fair game as far as I'm concerned.
Pete's hard-nosed attitude is typical of the paparazzi. And like every other photographer out there, there's only one shot that really interests him.
If Prince William is out there with a girl and it looks like that's his girlfriend, then that's a picture that has to be seen. William walking down the street with a notepad under his arm, it doesn't mean anything. It's just, he's just a student walking down the street. He only becomes interesting if he's got a girl in his arm.
William and a girl, it's the ultimate photo. But getting a shot is hard. The Prince's security team are top-notch.
I know instantly if Prince William is in town because when I come into St Andrews, his special branch security guys are basically on my case immediately. They'll drive past, they'll circle round the place, they'll have a look. They'll keep basically circling round the block. If I move, they'll move as well.
William's security is the best, but when it comes to the media, they're only following orders.
I can only imagine that the apparent paranoia which is exhibited to me emanates from William. Somebody gives the security people the orders, they don't just make them up. So it would appear to me that either William himself or the palace do not want William photographed.
It's William's security that keep him safe and ensure that he can woo his ladies without too many prying eyes. But when it comes to the ladies, having detectives around can be just another distraction.
If Prince William did manage to go out on a date, he wouldn't be on his own with the girl because there'd be, you know, about 5 armed guards. So he wouldn't be able to lean over for a nice little snog because he'd think, oh, God, that's the guard looking at me now. You know, it's not very private, is it?
No matter where poor William is, he's never alone.
William can't really have a normal date with a girlfriend. Say he wants to go to the pictures, go and see the latest film. He will drive there. Behind him will be a police car with his royal bodyguards. He will pay for his tickets at the cinema, go and sit down. Then sitting in the back row will be his 2 bodyguards just keeping an eye on him. Every move he makes will be watched. So he's got a permanent shadow.
Together, the press and the constant presence of his bodyguards makes it very difficult for William to have what most of us would consider a normal relationship. And it means that even the simplest night out becomes a major security headache. William's former bodyguard, Ken Wharf, has had to deal with many requests from members of the royal family, all of whom were desperate for a normal night out.
During my 16 years working for the royal family, I mean, without exception, virtually all the members of the royal family did on occasions do things that normal people do, like go to the theatre, go to the restaurant. That was crucial to their life. It was a form of escapism. What makes it different for the royal family is, of course, there needs to be the security package that goes along with it. There are simple security guidelines that need to be adhered to, but it shouldn't actually sort of affect the way that that William, for example, would go to a restaurant.
So if William were to do something ordinary like go out to dinner, what would his security officers be looking out for? To find out, we sent Ken down to Baccio, a favourite with Chelsea's celebrity crowd, and just the sort of place William might go if he fancied a quiet night out.
Having now got in the restaurant, you clearly see we have a plate glass window in front. It would be security madness to place him there, for example. Not that it will be a great security threat, but of course you're going to keep prying eyes away by coming a bit further inside. Ideally, I would like somewhere near the door itself in case we had to evacuate for whatever reason. So I'd be looking at somewhere like a table like this, away from the prying public looking through the glass windows. Now, from that, I'd be looking at the back of the restaurant and looking at an alternative exit, mainly because in case something seriously happened at the front here that blocked our point of entry, and that would be the only reason I'd be doing it.
Every restaurant has an emergency exit. They're often used by celebrities who are trying to escape the paparazzi. But according to Ken, using them for this reason is the last thing William should consider doing.
Once in the restaurant, the likelihood of information leaking is pretty obvious. So, you know, there's a good chance that a photographer would turn up. I would advise William to carry on as normal. They're there for one reason only, to get a photograph. So, you know, I think you would say to William, look, there is a member of the press outside, and I would advise him to sort of leave by the point of arrival. In other words, not start looking for alternative exits, because I think to start running away and leaving by other covert means actually gives out the wrong impression. And I think, you know, to start playing games with the paparazzi is a game you inevitably end up losing.
But just how bad would it really be if William wanted to pop out with a girlfriend for a bowl of pasta and a bottle of wine? Would he really be swamped in snappers? Or would it be a quiet cappuccino and then home to bed? To find out, we took our William to Baccio, the restaurant Ken Wharf had looked over for us. William's mission? To enjoy a simple meal out without any media intrusion. But before we'd even started, the tabloids were not hopeful.
I think it's impossible for William to have a normal courtship with a girl. If he wanted to take her, say, to a very fancy restaurant in Chelsea or Knightsbridge, he would turn up at the restaurant. As soon as he walked in, every diner would turn and look at him. You might get someone there who would then ring a newspaper or ring someone and say, Prince William's just walked in and he's with a stunning blonde. We, of course, we would race to the restaurant because we would want the picture of Prince William with the stunning blonde. So his meal would be ruined.
But as the meal progressed, it seemed that perhaps the experts were wrong. 20 minutes in, and still our hidden cameras hadn't seen a thing. William and his date ate, drank, and laughed as if they didn't have a care in the world. Then slowly, out of the woodwork they came, the paparazzi. Somebody had tipped them off, and a shot of William out on the town was obviously far too tempting to ignore. They were clearly waiting for their moment, the moment when William and his hot new date emerged onto public property and made themselves fair game. And as William and his date prepared to leave, the paparazzi got into position. Attention like this makes the job a nightmare. And it's not just William who will suffer.
If my daughter came home to me and said, Daddy, I want to marry the Prince of Wales, or I want to marry Prince William of Wales, I wouldn't quite say, get out of here, you slut, never darken my doorstep again. But I would say to her, darling, have you thought what it involves? And try and spell it out.
I think the girls aren't really aware of what they're getting into when they go out with William as far as the media attention is concerned. You can say, gosh, look, you know, the front pages of newspapers, but nobody really knows what it's like to be chased down the street and have paparazzi outside your doorstep and rifling through your rubbish, unless it's happened to them. And I think none of them really know what that's like.
And it's not just the media that our likely girl will have to put up with. As if they weren't daunting enough, she'll also have to cope with what are possibly the most formidable set of in-laws on earth.
Well, they're a very strange family, aren't they? I've often thought if they lived in your street, you wouldn't talk to them. They are so dysfunctional, and some of them, many of them, are very rude, very arrogant.
She's got to be accommodating to a lot of very strange beasts, and I'm not referring to the stags on the moors or the pheasants or the foxes in the coverts. Some of the strangest beasts are the two-legged ones indoors. She's got to accommodate a lot of very frustrated people, and I think that anybody who is marrying into that family has got to take that into account.
By any standards, it's going to be intimidating. You have Prince Charles there, Camilla Parker Bowles there, the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, who can be quite frosty and quite robust in his views. It's an intimidating prospect. I think most people, and when they initially meet the royal family, they're absolutely terrified.
There's something very cold about the royal family, and you don't know how they might treat an outsider. You definitely get that sense with Diana, that they closed ranks quite massively and left her alone. I think that would be a very unappealing prospect for any bride of William. Can't imagine anyone wanting to skip through Buckingham Palace, you know, holding Prince William's hand, go to meet the Queen. I think that would be terrifying.
And it's not just scary, it's boring. The job might look glamorous, but William's wife will face a lifetime of handshaking, ribbon cutting, and hospital openings. Being a future queen is a full-time job, and she's got to be prepared for a life of duty and sacrifice.
It will be endless rounds of handshaking, speech-making, being nice to people you've never met in your life and you don't care if you ever see again in your life, and all the other 101 things that go with being a public figure.
The girl that marries William has got to really want the guy badly, because who would want that daily task of shaking hands, visiting hospitals, half the globe covered in red carpet, it must seem to them.
I would absolutely love it. On all those wonderful clothes you could have, and hairdressers at your disposal, and I think it would be terrific, but probably for only about 6 months, and then I think you probably want to go screaming mad.
And it's not even that glamorous. In fact, royal life can be surprisingly dowdy. Recently, the Daily Mirror's Ryan Parry went undercover. He was there to test security at the palace. But what really surprised him was just how unglamorous life at the palace really was.
It's not as glamorous as you might think. I mean, for example, the Queen, you know, she uses Tupperware for her cornflakes and oats in the morning for breakfast. You know, she feeds scones to the corgis under the table, and there's crumbs all over the carpet. And, you know, the dogs themselves, they sprawl themselves in the corridors, and, you know, they're sleeping. And it's like somebody's front lounge. It's a home at the end of the day. It's not as grand as everybody thinks.
And as well as being a bit rough round the edges, Ryan saw that life at the palace can also be very lonely.
If you're a royal, I think life at Buckingham Palace could be extremely lonely. Especially if you're with a guy like Prince William. You know, he's obviously a very busy person, important to national life, and he'll be often in official engagements. And sometimes, you know, this young girl might be with him, sometimes not. And when she's not, you know, she'll be at home in her private apartment, and it can be very lonely.
So, what sort of woman can put up with this lonely, boring job? Where's the girl who can deliver what the royal family needs to get it back on track? And, more to the point, how's William ever going to choose her? It's a tough call, but believe it or not, there are a few ladies who are still prepared to risk all for king and country. Ladies who would do almost anything to land themselves a prince. Dating for William can be a nightmare, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's just taken place where no one else can see it. Because while he might not be able to enjoy a quiet dinner out, he can certainly have some very nice evenings in.
Well, as Princess Margaret once said, we, the royal family, have a lot of houses. And there are a lot of places you can go and be private, and you don't have to go out to restaurants. So, OK, so this is the one. Forget entertaining her at China White or anywhere where they might be photographed. I mean, it can all be quite private if they want it to be.
I think any of the sort of assignations are all organised by friends over dinner parties and kind of house parties, shooting parties. I mean, that's why the whole sport and outdoorsy thing is so great. Such a great cover, because you can invite 20 people up, including kind of several choice fillies, up to kind of Scotland and hide them away, and there's no one there. I mean, Balmoral, you know, you wouldn't even get close.
And it's not just the houses that can keep a secret. The women themselves will never talk either.
You can speak to me, but don't ever expect to get an interview with someone who is William's closest friend or a girl who's had a date with William. Forget it. They're never going to talk to you. Offer them £1 million, they won't speak to you. Because the girl has to consider the £1 million fee versus wearing the crown of the Queen of England. Absolutely no contest.
Because if they do, they'll be cut out of the royal loop forever. And it just isn't worth it.
The friends of the royals tend to put loyalty above their lives, almost. They know that if they were told a secret and then pass that secret on, so therefore it's no longer a secret, that they would be pariahs. That they simply would disappear from view, not just thought as being naughty for a week or two. They would simply be never seen or spoken of again.
I think that if any girl spilt the beans on a relationship with William, or even a one-night stand, I think that she would be cold-shouldered forever. And the royal family on the whole has got very loyal people, very, let's say, tactful people, very discreet people surrounding it. And I think that she wouldn't ever be accepted again. She'd be persona non grata.
But despite the news blackout, some information has emerged. Out of William's close circle of upper-class fillies, some leading riders have pulled out in front. And they've all got one thing in common. You can forget your talk of page 3 girls and celebrities. To stand a chance, you've got to be posh.
To marry Prince William, you have to get within his circle of friends. Break into that circle, then you've got a chance. You know, an outsider standing at a bar or a nightclub, you're a 1 million to 1 outsider. He will marry from within the aristocratic field. You know, all these page 3 girls who might think they've got a chance, they haven't really.
So when you've got rid of the wishful thinkers and the wannabes, who are you left with?
William's been linked to a great many very pretty girls. I'm sure he'd like to have dated half of them. But one that he hasn't denied is Arabella Musgrave. And her father was the manager of Cirencester Park Polo Club, where William and Harry play all the time. So that was a natural sort of happening event.
Yes, on paper, bubbly Arabella had all the right attributes. But by the time William left Eton, friends say they drifted apart. But Willie doesn't like waiting, and on his year off, there were already rumours of another woman. African maiden Jekka Craig.
William spent his gap year, part of his gap year on her father's estate out in Kenya, is definitely the sort of the closest that anyone's got to kind of a proper prospect. They obviously got on really well, and it's, you know, very likely they had some kind of flirtation out in Africa, but I don't know if that's something that's sustainable.
I don't believe that William and Jekka were serious. I think William and Jekka were very good friends. I mean, in the genuine sense of being good friends. And she got upset, and he got upset, when the stories of a romance between them appeared in the newspapers, so they quashed it before it went any further.
However, despite William's denials, rumours about him and Jekka persisted. But then, up at St Andrews, stories of a new girlfriend emerged. Scottish photographer Pete Kelly had been trying to photograph William at a rugby tournament when he got a very lucky break.
I met my contact who took me round and said, he's round here. And I said, right, who's he with? And I said, you know, the guy said to me, he's with his girlfriend. And I said, who's his girlfriend? And they said, Kate Middleton.
Kate was one of William's flatmates, but the pair had always denied that the relationship ran any deeper. But what Pete saw definitely convinced him otherwise.
We're like a mirror image of each other, which is one of the principal body language signs that you are in tandem, if you like, with the other person. It was very, very obvious to me that she and Wills were... there was something there that wasn't there with other people that she spoke to.
To Pete's eyes, the evidence was compelling, but there was still no cast-iron proof. Then Pete's contact gave him another call. William was having dinner, alone with Kate.
Normally, Wills in public would appear with a group of up to maybe 6 girls, but on this occasion, he ate here with Kate, just both of them together. He, by all accounts, but my information was that it was very lovey-dovey, very much looking like a couple.
Unfortunately, Pete arrived too late to get a shot, and it looked like Kate and William's secret was safe for a little longer. Meanwhile, William was skiing, where the only special friend in evidence was his father, Charles. It looked like just another royal photo call, where in return for a few snaps, William gets left alone to enjoy the rest of his holiday. It was an informal agreement that had held ever since Diana's death. But the next day, the sun went and smashed it apart. And the woman skiing with William? Kate Middleton.
I think the Sun likes to break stories and to break exclusives. We're aware of this information, and we got the picture of Kate and William on the ski slopes in Cloisters, and we decided to go with it. We've known for some time it wasn't just the photograph that spurred us to publish it. I think the photograph gave us the excuse to run the story, which we did.
He's actually been very, very cool about the whole thing. So he's managed to carry on what no other young royal has ever carried on. He's managed to actually live with his girlfriend without anyone finding out until now.
So come on, what about the million-dollar question? Is Kate the one?
I don't know that. I don't think anyone knows that. It's very early days. They're at the first flush of their relationship. There's a long way to go yet.
Kate could have won the key to William's heart already. We don't really know. There's no reason why Kate couldn't be a suitable bride for William. He's only 22, but I think what we'll have to do is just wait and see what happens. Watch this space.
So there you are. Despite the difficulties, perhaps it's not impossible for a prince to find love after all. And whether it's Kate, this blonde, or some other eligible aristo, eventually William will find the love of his life, his future queen. And millions of young women around the world can only dream that they'll be the one.